Good evening. This is the Coeur d'Alene Planning and Zoning Commission, and this is our February meeting. It's February 10th, 2015. Shanna, roll call, please.
Jordan?
Here.
Bobby? Here. Ingalls?
Here.
Lutrip?
Here.
Messina?
Here.
Ward?
Here.
O'Brien?
Here.
Cousins?
Okay, thanks, Shanna. All right, next, please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so we have approval of minutes from our January 13th meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion that we approve the minutes from the meeting on January 13th.
Second.
Okay, so we have the motion by Ingalls and second by Lutrip. Any additions or discussion or anything? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so the minutes are approved. Okay, now it's time for public comments, and this would be if any member of the public is here to address the commission on an item that's not being heard tonight. If you're here because of a hearing tonight, then there'll be some time during the hearing. Okay, seeing none. Staff comments.
Okay, I had a few comments. I wanted to just give a brief update. We had been asked by City Council to update the pocket housing section of the zoning code to allow for the design departure when there's a thoughtful proposal that takes into consideration some of the elements we're looking for in pocket housing, but maybe doesn't meet all of the components that are required by the code. And so we're working on that. We're also going to be looking at some other things, such as maybe limiting the number of houses that can have the same house plan, and also looking at potentially reducing the maximum size of the site for pocket housing, and then also clarifying the street tree requirement for the single-family pocket housing development projects. And then one other thing I wanted to mention is there's the open house that's on the 25th for the Four Corners and BLM master plan, and that is here in the library community room from 6 to 8 p.m.
Is that it, Hillary? Oh,
Comments?
thank you. And and I think it's probably a good idea to review that pocket housing ordinance. It had good intentions, and it's worked well in cases, but I've seen great examples of pocket housing, and I've seen some poor examples where it's been poorly developed, so I think it's probably good to fine-tune that.
One quick thing, Brad, I just wanted to announce to the audience that if you are interested in speaking on both of these items, please sign in to both of them. They're very similar, so we just want to make sure that everyone signs up.
Okay, thanks, Sean. What do we have next month for a hearing? Are we having a meeting next month? Okay.
There are 4 items, well, 3 or 4 items
Okay.
that will be coming before you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I could ask
Yes.
our director, there's a little picture in the paper a while back where you received an award on behalf of the city back in Tennessee someplace. Could you comment on that? I thought it was pretty neat.
Sure. I had the opportunity to go to Nashville with Nicole Kaler with CDA 2030, and it's part of a grant application. It's a prize contest, actually, that Frontier Communications and Dish Network and CoBank are doing, and so they wanted to announce there's a celebrity partner with Vince Gill, and so we were able to fly back. There was 50 cities that applied, and only 2 cities were invited to go out there for the all-expenses-paid trip, and so we flew out there. We found out about it a couple days before, flew out and attended 2 events and learned a little bit more about the grant competition. So that is one thing. The city is currently working on the grant. The application is due in March, and we're looking at, it's a partnership with Kootenai Health and Heritage Health and some other Jobs Plus and CDA 2030 in the city, the chamber, et cetera. So
Oh, nice.
excited about that. Hopefully we'll win the first round of the prize competition.
Good.
That's great. Is there any commissioner comments? Anything else? All right. Okay, we have 2 hearings tonight. On both of these, the applicant, as Sean mentioned, is the Coeur d'Alene Cottage Company, or CDA Cottage Company, technically, I guess. And these are both quasi-judicial hearings. So if you'd like to testify, there is the sign-up sheet, as he mentioned, in the back there. The applicant will have up to 30 minutes, if he needs it, to make his presentation. And then the members of the public will have 5 minutes to comment. And then I think there'll be up to 10 minutes for rebuttal time at the end for the applicant. And also, if you want to testify in this matter, just step up to the podium where Sean is there, and then I need to swear you in because it's a quasi-judicial hearing. You can state your name and address. Okay, Sean, go ahead with the staff report. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Brad. So tonight before you, you have a request for two subdivisions, actually. We're going to take the first one, which is S-115. It's a 4-lot preliminary plat subdivision request for East Davidson Addition, and it is for pocket housing. The location is commonly known as 1008 West Davidson Avenue, and the parcel size is .302 of an acre. So your decision point is to take a look at this and see if it meets the requirements for the city so that you can make findings to approve or deny. If you take a look at your staff report, you can see here's the aerial photograph. You can see Davidson Avenue running east-west here. Here's Northwest Boulevard. I zoomed out enough to try and help everyone figure out exactly where this is at. So the request is for this piece of property right here in yellow. Here is a photo of the subject property. You can see the fence line ends right here on this side and here on the other side. All right, so there's some required subdivision findings that need to be made. The first finding, B7A, is that all of the general preliminary plat requirements have or have not been met as attested to by the city engineer. And so per Gordon Dobler, the city engineer, the requirements have been met. Here is a photo or a picture of the preliminary plat. And then the next one should be zoomed in. And so I wanted to discuss exactly what was happening. If you take a look at your staff report, repeatedly throughout the report I have stated that pocket housing doesn't need frontage for the lots. They can be landlocked lots, assuming that they have the requirements for access and for utilities. So you can see here in the highlighted yellow area, I highlighted this, is the area where the utilities and the access will be for the 4 single-family lots for pocket housing. And I just wanted to let everyone know that this meets our minimum requirements for width as far as ingress and egress goes, as well as for supplying the utilities to the lots. Okay, so the next required finding is B7B, is that the provisions for sidewalks, streets, alleys, rights-of-way, easements, street lighting, fire protection, planting, drainage, pedestrian and bicycle facilities and utilities are or are not adequate where applicable. So some of these things are obviously applicable, some of them are not. It's obviously dependent upon what is being requested. And inside of your staff report, you can find the city staff comments, and they are on pages 5 and 6. Next finding is finding B7C. This is whether or not the proposed preliminary plat complies with the subdivision design standards and all of the subdivision improvement standards requirements. So the subdivision design and improvement standards have been met and subject to staff comments and proposed conditions, and finding B8B has those staff comments. So finding B7D is the lots that are proposed in the preliminary plat. Do they meet or do not meet the requirements of the applicable zoning district? So for zoning, we look at the use. It's a residential use, so it does comply. The frontage requirement, like I had mentioned earlier, is pocket housing does not require frontage, so assuming that you guys approve that, it would meet the zoning requirement. And then the minimum lot size. So in your staff report, I have calculated out, I've also talked about the previous interpretation that was made on May 13th of 2008 on pocket housing threshold. And so what was determined is at the third unit, assuming that there was enough property there to reach 0.5 of a unit, that we would round up. And so the lot size here is 13,155 square feet, and which ends up being 3.75 units at 3,500 square feet per unit, and we would round up to 4. Here is a zoning map showing that the area is largely R12. There is some R17 here, and then commercial along Northwest Boulevard. So there are 6 proposed conditions that staff has made. You can see that. That's also in your staff report. There's one from wastewater, one from water, and 3 from engineering and 1 from planning. Planning largely mimics the ones from engineering, but also provides that 12-foot lanes in either direction will be provided for ingress and egress. So, Planning Commission must consider this request and make appropriate findings to approve, deny, or deny without prejudice. And your findings worksheet is attached. If there are any questions, I'm open.
Yes, of course I have questions.
Sean, I think one of the commissioners has some questions
Yeah, I have
for you.
questions. Isn't there a similar pocket housing near Fernan that we okayed several years ago? And it's kind of kitty corner from the school, and I think it was one of the first ones we did. I just am curious how although we don't have snow this year, how have they been able to maintain their snow cleanup in the 24-foot easement that abuts the 2 homes at the end? Do you have any idea how successful that's been? And I mean,
I am not even sure which development
Yeah,
you're talking
I should have
about,
called
I guess.
because there's a pocket housing that we okayed, and it's been a long time. I think it was one of the first in town. But it's it's across from Fernan Elementary. And it has the concrete, and it has 1, 2, 3, I think there's 4. And they have the concrete in the middle. And I just wondered if you've had any complaints. Obviously, there hasn't been.
I have not gotten a complaint with that particular development. I do understand your concern for snow storage and be able to move that.
And where will
stuff.
the snow storage go with this? Just curiosity. How do you plow something when you don't have any way to really turn around and get it out?
That's generally a management.
Something within the 4 units that they have to maintain?
Yeah, they're going to be required to provide a homeowners association, and they'll have to sort that out. Generally, what we see, though, is that they provide an area, a swale area, and largely that ends up being filled with snow.
So the road itself will be taken care of internally? It won't be done?
Internally, correct. In fact, this really isn't even a private street. It's more of a glorified driveway that provides utilities.
Right. And we haven't discussed the minimum of a unit, home unit, have we? What would be the size? I'll ask the applicant what they think the size of the homes will be within this.
Okay, yeah, it's by the building department code. There's a minimum size for like a kitchen.
For pocket housing?
No, just in general.
But just for a kitchen?
And for anybody's living unit, and that's pretty much our minimum. So that's a good question for the applicant.
What is our minimum that we have?
I would have to defer to the building department for that one.
For that.
Off the top of my head, I believe I remember 300 square feet for a kitchen.
300 square feet?
That's
Okay.
a big kitchen.
Minimum.
That is, really. I mean, it's a galley kitchen. You could do it in, okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay, yeah.
Sean, a couple questions if I could. In understanding the way the density is calculated, you took the original parcel at the 13,000 square feet, whatever it was, and you come up with the math that rounds up to 4, that's a density type calculation.
Correct.
And so the lots on the map, they look like they're, 2,400 square feet or something like that. According to the ordinance, the 1707 1010I, it says lot size, there is no minimum lot size within a pocket residential development. So they took that 4 for density and approximately, split it out towards 2,400 square feet a lot or whatever. Is that a concern at all, that lot size is too small?
From a professional perspective, it does meet our minimum requirements. And the reason why is because that pocket housing will allow us to use the property that is for access and utilities for the calculation for the total size of the lot. So that's why there is no minimum lot size, is because it's made up for by access. So assuming that the developer can meet his setbacks, which it appears he can. He did provide us with a preliminary site plan that's showing, roughly how this would all fit together. And there was a couple of concerns that we worked out at the staff level before we arrived here. But from a professional perspective, it appears that it would work.
But there is no minimum.
There is no minimum lots.
Would you mind going back to that? I had a question for you, since you did mention the setbacks. If you'd go back to that expanded plat map.
I'll get there.
There we go. Since some of these, 2 of these lots, once split, face, what is it, would you say that was, Davidson?
Mm-hmm.
And so they have frontage. And when you're dealing with setbacks, one could ascertain what's the front, the side yard and whatnot. But those lots to the furthest away from Davidson, how do you figure out what's the front and what's the side and what's the rear?
Oh, that's a great question, and the clarification there is that we look at it as a development. So the way that that pocket housing is written is that we look at setbacks from the external boundaries. All of the internal boundaries are zero lot line or available for zero lot line development. So we look at the front as the frontage at Davidson, so there will be a setback of 20 feet there. There's 10 foot from either side, so on this it would be the top and the bottom, and then 15 feet from the rear. And so the setbacks will be external to the darker black line on the outside,
Gotcha.
And then interior they can even touch if they...
So as a planner, I mean, they did the density calculation, and 4 is the right number. And there's no minimum lots size. They did choose to split it pretty equally, around 2,400 a lot. As a planner, when you saw that layout, did it strike you as workable?
Obviously when you see something like this, the first thought is, are they going to meet their density requirements? And we ran those numbers, and I started thinking, really pocket housing allows a different type of development. It doesn't really change the density. So if they wanted to, they could build 2 duplexes on this property under single ownership, or possibly even, conduit if they wanted to, and still have the same number of units, but have different type of ownership or a different type of product with 2 attached units or something like that, and still meet the density. So really I look at this as a way where we can provide fee simple property and ownership, that people will take care of their property, that sort of thing. They are invested in it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, anything else? All right, thanks, Sean. Okay, is the applicant here? Come on up. State your name and address.
Is that my mic?
Yes, it is.
Okay. My name's Eric Olson. I'm with HMH Engineering, 1302 West Hayden Avenue in Hayden.
Okay, Eric, now, Raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give us will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I swear.
Okay. Thanks.
You're welcome. So just a couple of things to add. Well, first, I guess the couple of questions that were brought up. Snow storage, I think Sean was right on there. The homeowners association would contract with somebody to remove the snow, and we're envisioning for this one as well as the other one that would be stored in the grass swales. For our development here, we're envisioning that the grass swales would be on either side of the top of the T there. So a little bit more information on the development. Trying to kind of create a courtyard feel, if you will, with the project. House size 1,100 to 1,600 square feet approximately. 2-car garages are envisioned for the 4 of these. The lots are kind of laid out, and it just kind of worked out with the setbacks that these lots were this size. They're kind of worked out so that each lot has about the same building footprint available to it. So 2-car garages for each lot are envisioned, and basically we're trying to provide a product, something that's low maintenance and reasonable cost. People who want something that's new in an area that's close to Kootenai Medical Center, area that's close to downtown, where there's not a whole lot of single-family housing available that is new at this price point. Well, I was kind of asking myself what I should say here, and I looked back at the Pocket residential development handout here that you guys have, and the purpose of Pocket housing. Thought I'd read those off real quick. To encourage greater efficiency of land use by allowing compact infill development on aggregate sites. Certainly we're being efficient with the land and creating 4 homes on a piece of property that's roughly 0.3 acres. To stimulate new housing that is compatible in scale and character to establish surrounding residential areas. This pocket housing is permitted in this zoning district. There's single-family housing, there's duplexes, there's apartments in the area. To produce a broader range of building forms for residential development. That's exactly what we're doing here. To expand opportunities for homeownership, including both condominium and fee simple. Again, I think we're providing a different type of product where somebody may otherwise be looking for a condo or an apartment. We're providing a different type of single-family unit. To ensure that residents of such housing enjoy a high-quality environment with permanent stability and access to green space. Just by seeing some of the products that this developer's put out in the past, I'm sure you guys are familiar with some of those projects. I think that you're going to get that here. We've got the green space requirement, open space requirements met. This would be within a walking or biking distance to Riverstone or downtown. So I think that's all met. We've got we've taken the time to flush out our site plan. All of our infrastructure requirements are met. So in summary, I think it's a good project and welcome any questions that you might have.
Okay. Thank you. Do we have any questions for the applicant?
Yes, Eric, just kind of a standard question I might ask. That there's 6 conditions that are written in the staff report. Have you had a chance to reviewed those in detail?
I have,
Are you okay with those as being conditions to this?
yes.
And with the HOA association, help me understand how viable that is with a small, I guess with snow plowing, as you mentioned. That suggests that there's kind of a dues paying. This would be a functioning, not just on paper, but an actual dues paying HOA. Do you have experience with that elsewhere? Is that viable when you get down to 4 units and you have to have a president and a vice president and a board and
Right. Truthfully, I'm a civil engineer by trade, so I don't have that experience. I guess I would be curious to know if that could be lumped in with the other development into one association that's doing those responsibility, having those responsibilities to kind of increase that number. I think that would make some sense. Economy of scale, but I'm sure it's possible. I don't know how it's worked in the past.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else? Right, I guess you're done for now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll go down the list here for testimony. Let's see, I have Philip and Linda Terry, 1020 Davidson. Okay, you do not wish to testify? All right. Gibson Blankenship, did you wish to testify, sir?
Well, I was,
Yeah, come on up.
front and center, huh?
I just need you to state your name and address for the record, and I'll swear you in real quickly here.
My name's Gibson Blankenship. I live my lot is just directly to the south of this property, and I was more interested in the fact if there would be a privacy fence or anything else constructed. I've lived there for 30 years, and I was more or less interested in the privacy fence or something, and how
Excuse me,
close
just
that
1
building would
second.
be to the board line.
And then...
We need to
and
swear
then,
you in before you can take
okay.
testimony.
No, and I'm sure so far, anything you've said and will say, you swear to tell the truth and the whole truth, and nothing
Okay.
but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
I think I got that all in there. All right, go ahead.
All right.
Sorry to interrupt you like that.
All right, my main interest is if there would be a privacy fence built between the properties.
Okay.
And that, how close the building would actually be to my property line. That's my main interest in it. Because my neighbor next door has a fourplex living very next lot next to him, and he had to build a privacy fence because of the kids throwing trash, and the noise was just awful for him, and he just moved into it, and he's just about ready to sell his home. And I believe that's 1011 mill, which would be just to the west of my property. And sometimes for him to call City Hall, it's kind of like on deaf ears, and he calls the property owners that own it, the rental company, and there again, it's deaf ears. So there are some issues with that many units behind me, you'd kind of hope to think that everybody would be just,
Well, you definitely see good examples and bad examples of property ownership around town. So unfortunately, you have one of the worst examples, I guess, next to you there as far as rental ownership. Sean, what's the code on, I don't know what's in the narrative here, but what's the code on fencing and setbacks, I guess, just...
There's no
Lines up there.
requirement for fencing, and just
Okay.
like there wouldn't be a requirement, it's a residential use that would be abutting a residential
Okay.
use. So, but there is a there's fencing requirements for pocket housing, and they're not forcing them to put it in, but if you put it in, there's requirements to be met.
Right, okay.
I can repeat those to you if you'd like to hear them.
Well, just tell me, he doesn't have to put a privacy fence in, because it's not a change in, it's not a different zone abutting it. So we can ask the developer what he's planning on doing.
And
Comes up later.
there is one other issue with
Okay.
it does not show it on this plat, but right there on the, I believe it would be on the west-south corner, there's actually an indentation on the property line, which it does not show it on here. And there's a maple tree there that had an old tree house built in it, which is on that property. And I don't know if they'd have to take it out because of the liability issues to it, but I had limbs falling off it on my camper. I mean, the thing's got to be about 400 years old. And I can't imagine they would be allowed to build there with the liability of kids maybe be crawling up in it and falling out of it or whatever. Plus, the lot totally needs, there's an old garage on it that absolutely needs to be gone. And I'm probably figuring that that's all going to be taken out of there, I would imagine. Anyway, that's all I have, folks.
Before it goes,
hold on a
Sean,
second.
if my understanding is correct on it, the setback, as you were talking about, is going to be 15 feet in the back, is that right?
For a principal dwelling unit, correct.
Right, so to answer your question, if your property is abutting against the far end, it'll be about 15 feet buffer from your property line to the back of whatever they're going to build there. That's the first thing.
Oh,
As far as them taking out trees and whatever else was in that tree and stuff, that's probably going to be up to the property owner, because the city doesn't really have any say over if it's a liability or not. I imagine if the developers are, concerned of neighbors and or any trees falling on whatever they build, they might address that and such. But you do have some separation from your property, and as far as the fencing goes, that's something that we can discuss, and or the owner can be a good neighbor and see what they can do. Okay?
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Have a nice evening.
Great, thank you. Okay, now I have Dalton Cunningham. Oh, would you like to testify? Okay. Thank you. Bill Barr, would you like to testify, sir? Okay. Brian Casson, 101 West Davidson. Would you like to testify, sir? Okay. Then I have Lauren Parada. Would you like to testify, sir? Okay, come on up. Just state your name and address.
I'm Lauren Parada, 1017 West Davidson Avenue.
Okay, sir, and you swear the testimony you're about to go will be the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, thanks.
What I'm worried about is when you put multi-families in an area that's a single dwelling family, it seems like the value of our housing will either go down or, not increase. That's one of the questions I've been asking. I'm not sure, but it's always been my understanding. I didn't realize the parking until you guys said something about two garage parking, because there is no parking on the street. I mean, it's tight enough just to drive through. With the kids playing, and so forth. What else did I have to say? I mean, I'm all about you guys dozing that house and building a new one. It's a health issue, really is. And both houses, both 1008 and 1018, and 1018, those both houses do need to be dozed and built back up. Concerned about how tight those quarters are, trying to put that many that many complexes in there. Is there I know the infrastructure's safe as far as that goes. It's all been taken care of. But as far as all the water and sewer, I know that's all dialed in there. Is that just too many though in those areas? in those two little lots?
Okay, well, answer your questions. I guess it's a matter of perception whether it's too many or not, but it meets the code. And it's not really multifamily, because those are, the way it's being proposed here is for private ownership, so it's not really technically multifamily.
So each quarter will be cut into each person's own place?
There'll be,
Or
right,
each corner?
right, they'll have a homeowners association there, but each person will own their own home, the way it's being
Okay.
proposed, so it won't be like a multifamily rental.
Okay. And homeowners association, that doesn't dwell upon us either, does it?
No, just
No?
for them.
Okay. Okay, thank you for your time.
Yep, thank you for coming down. Okay, that's all I had on my list. Is there anyone else I missed that wanted to testify? Okay. You have some time to come back up here, Eric. Did you note some of the questions?
Yeah, I did. I noted a couple of the issues there. On behalf of the developer, he did mention to me earlier today that he was planning on building a 6-foot fence along the backside. I'm not sure about the maple tree issue, but just knowing him and the way he operates, he's pretty thoughtful about that kind of stuff, and he'll take into consideration the tree and whether or not that fits with the scheme. You know, I understand the concerns of the owner of 1017, which is the house in between, right? It's hard to address that. I guess the way that some of these, the other development that I'm familiar with is the one next to Fred Meyer. You know which one that one is, with the barn and those type. That's the same developer, and he builds a certain way, high quality, Energy Star, energy efficient, very progressive type thinking. So these are going to be nice units. I don't know, from not a realtor, so I don't know about the property values, but if that makes any difference to you. And that's all I got. That's all I have on my list.
All right. Is there any other questions of the applicant?
So a 6-foot fence on the south side is satisfactory with you, and we can put that as a condition?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anything else? Right. Unless you have anything else, I guess that's it.
Okay.
Would anybody like to make a motion?
Can we have a discussion?
Yeah, we can do that too.
When pocket housing was, when we talked about it several years ago, I remember the concern about, people thought of the density. I can remember that because there were single-family homes in these older neighborhoods. They were 50 by 100 feet, but downtown. And the one in Fernan is the one I was thinking about. People were really concerned. I drive by that one, and I don't remember who built it, but it's still functioning quite well. And it has been around quite a while. But I had my concerns, and this is a R17, so you can do, what, 17 units? Is it in
R12.
R12, excuse me, per acre. So you could do 12 units per acre, essentially, in this area, and so by right. Now, whether or not a person would want to do that, but that's kind of the way the neighborhood is, and I drive that street. I know those are homes that have yards that are single family. This concept, it seems, it's probably the builders and the whole coordination, but these will be privately owned. They're not rentals. And so that is a pride of ownership, and that's a real plus for the neighborhood. And there is a concern I can see if I was a neighbor, I would worry about that many homes. But it seems that they've worked in different places that they've gone into. We've had a few, the ones that I can think of right offhand, been very successful. So the only concern I have is that home ownership. I'm not sure how that's going to function, and whether or not they'll have to figure out the snow, and they'll have to coordinate what they plan to do on that. And I'll be curious. I didn't know if we needed to do that as a condition, or is that inappropriate to make sure that a homeowners association was created for the two developments.
That would be appropriate.
Commissioner, I do see that as a requirement of Condition 5.
Oh, is it?
Under engineering, it says the common driveway access is required to be placed in a tract owned and maintained by the homeowners association.
Oh, okay, good. Thank you. I didn't read that. Thank you. Okay,
Do you
we're
have a
good.
comment, Warren?
No, that sort of answered that. I was going to mention to you, you asked about fencing. I was going to tell you what the standard is in our design standards for pocket housing. We do not allow chain link fencing in pocket housing developments, and in the front yard, the fence can be no more than 48 inches high, so along the right-of-way, essentially. Beyond that, it would have to comply with our standards, which I think is a 5-foot fence, if I remember right, Sean. Is it 6 feet? So you could have a 6-foot fence on the back and the two sides. The front fencing, if it was going to be fenced, couldn't be any more than 48 inches along the right-of-way.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Warren.
With the homeowners association, whether they are effective or not, the fact remains the city has no responsibility for maintaining that street, for plowing the street, or anything else. Is that correct?
That's correct. This is entirely up to the owners to maintain it. And we have some instances of this form of development up along Wilbur Avenue in the northern part of the city where you've got some smaller lots that share common driveways. And it works. It's tight. They're definitely small lots, but it works.
I think that's in Heartland.
Yeah,
part of it, isn't it?
Heartland
Yeah.
subdivision.
Well, that's right, yeah.
Yeah.
I was trying to think
I was-
where that was. That was
I
quite a long
thinking
time
about that.
ago.
They've kind of got the same,
They do,
some similarities. Yeah.
but it's not a pocket housing, it's a development.
but they had
the
the
three
shared-
houses
shared
shared
driveway,
driveways,
yeah.
and that was kind of cutting edge at that time, several years ago, but I remember that. And it seemed,
Yeah, that was in the 90s, I think.
in
yeah,
that
a
neighborhood,
while
it's
back.
really worked pretty well. It seems like it's worked okay.
The pocket housing development that most people can familiarize themselves with or know where it's at is along Government Way, just south of Summit, near the cemetery. The homes that are right next to each other, that's a
along
pocket
those row
housing
homes along
development
there.
as well.
Those are considered pocket housing?
Access comes from the rear.
Yeah, okay, from the alley. Okay,
It's actually not an alley. It's a created tract that acts like an alley, but it's
Okay.
not publicly owned.
okay, thank you. I didn't,
All right.
don't remember that.
Those are the first ones on Government Way. The last 4 or 5, they have access from the street, so I don't know if those are considered
Part of
pocket
it.
as well, the newer ones that they just put up there.
Oh, the bigger ones.
I believe those ones are not pocket
Right.
housing, if I remember
They have access
correctly.
from Government Way.
Okay,
So I remember when that came in.
towards the headstone place.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
first ones that came in, I think it was
Right.
Copper Basin or somebody did
Right.
it. So all the alleys, they have access from the back.
Okay, I didn't realize that was considered pocket. Okay. Don't remember it being called that. Okay.
So are we ready for a motion? I
It's
think
a sleeve.
Commissioner Ingalls is making a motion.
I would make a motion, Mr. Chair, along the outline of the findings and order for approval, that this matter has come before the Planning Commission on February 10th, 2015, and there having been present a person requesting approval of item S-115, a request for the approval of a 4-lot pocket housing preliminary plat, East David Addition, in an R12 residential at 12 units per acre zoning district. Applicant, CDA Cottage Company, location plus or minus .302 acre parcel commonly known as 1008 West Davidson Avenue, East La Crosse addition. As for findings, that the Planning Commission adopt B1 through B7 that are in the packet. B7A, that the general preliminary plat requirements have been met, and that was attested by Sean in his presentation, that city engineer made the finding that the plat requirements were met. Similarly, B7B, that the provisions for sidewalks, streets, alley, right-of-ways, easements, street lighting, fire protection, planting, drainage, pedestrian and bicycle facilities, and utilities are adequate based on the staff report comments in our package. B7C, that the proposed preliminary plat does comply with all of the subdivision design standards contained in Chapter 16.15 and all of the subdivision improvement standards contained in Chapter 16.40 requirements, and that would be based on the statement that is on page 7 in the staff report that says the subdivision design and improvement standards have been met subject to staff comments and the proposed conditions. B7D, the lots proposed in the preliminary plat do meet the requirements of the applicable zoning district, and that would be based on the outline that Sean Holm gave us, that the use is compatible. The frontage is not a requirement in this case, as long as the Planning and Zoning Commission find that the access is adequate and there is no minimum lot size in this case. And so, as for a conclusion and decision, the Planning Commission, pursuant to the aforementioned, finds that the request to Coeur d'Alene Cottage Company for preliminary plat of approval, as described in the application, should be approved, subject to the existing, or the original 6 conditions. I'm not going to read them all. They're in the packet. And the 7th one,
Fencing, which is part of them.
was on the south. Someone said the south boundary?
Oh, the fence on the south, is that what you meant?
But he intended to do it anyhow, but you could
Yes.
put it
Yeah,
down.
6-foot
It was
fence.
the south side, south.
An added, as a minimum, they could fence it elsewhere as well, I suspect, but as a minimum concern that we have a 6-foot fence along that south border as an additive 7th condition. That's the motion.
That was the south.
Yeah,
Sean,
privacy
okay.
fencing on south side.
Right. So we have a motion by Ingalls. Is there a second? Okay, second by Ward. Any discussion? Okay, roll call, Shanna. Please.
Colby,
Yes.
Ingalls,
Yes.
Messina,
Yes.
Lutrip,
Yes.
Ward.
Yes.
Okay, so that's approved unanimously. S-1-15, and that's at 1008 Davidson. So our second hearing tonight, same applicant. Thank you, Warren. CDA Cottage Company, this is at 1018 Davidson, proposed 3-lot preliminary plat, the West Davidson edition, quasi-judicial also, S-2-15. Okay, Sean?
Right.
We've got you again, all right?
So, as much as staff would like to say tongue-in-cheek, ditto, this is a very, very similar request. It's 2 lots to the west of the one that we just heard. The size of the parent parcel is smaller at .238 of an acre, and it's commonly known as 1018 West Davidson. So, once again, the owner applicant is the same. The subject is very similar. It's a 3-lot instead of a 4-lot request, and there's the size that we had just discussed. The decision point, once again, is the same, except for it's a 3-lot instead of a 4-lot. Here's the aerial photo. So the request that we just reviewed is right here at 1008. So we skip a lot here where there is a duplex at 1012 and 1014. And right here where it's the yellow highlight is the request. Here is a photo of that property. This was taken from Google Street View, so it is a little bit aged. It's obviously summer time when this was taken. So very similar conditions, conditions findings. They're actually exactly the same. All the general preliminary plat requirements have or have not been met as attested to by the city engineer. Once again, Gordon Dobler reviewed the preliminary plat and stated that all the general information required by 1612-020, the municipal code, has been included. This is the proposed preliminary plat, and this is where the change you can see. So in this one, I highlighted in the yellow area of where the utilities and the access would be. This is the 3 lots are 1, 2, and 3. So it's similar in many regards and a little bit different in the number of lots and the way that the access is proposed. So finding B7B, once again, is the sidewalks, streets, alleys, rights-of-way, easements, street lighting, fire protection, planting, drainage, pedestrian, and bicycle facilities and utilities are or are not adequate where applicable. Once again, I would refer you to your staff report to review the comments made by staff. They can be found on pages 5 and 6 again. The proposed preliminary plat does or does not comply with all of the subdivision design standards as contained in Chapter 6.15 and all of the subdivision improvement standards contained in Chapter 16.40 requirements. So as you can see through our comments and our proposed conditions, the subdivision design improvement standards have been met. Finding B7D is the lots proposed in the preliminary plat do or do not meet the requirements of the applicable zoning district. So this property is zoned R12, very the same as the other. The use is residential, which is allowed in the zoning district. Frontage, once again, it's a pocket housing development request, so frontage does not apply. And last but not least is minimum lot size. So once again, the calculations are in your staff report. Trying to be quiet so the mic doesn't pick up my flipping of pages. All right, so 10,367 and a hair more than a quarter square feet of property in this lot at 3,500 square feet per unit is 2.96. So this one is very, very, very close to the 3. We would round up, 400ths of a lot, basically. And this should look very familiar. This is the property here, R12, in a sea of R12 with Northwest Boulevard having the commercial uses or the commercial zoning flanking either side. They are the exact same 6 proposed conditions, as it is a very, very similar request. And they are listed here as well as in your staff report. And once again, Planning Commission must consider this request and make appropriate findings to approve, deny, or deny without prejudice. The finding worksheets are attached, and I will stand here for questions if there are any.
Okay, thank you, Sean. Looks like no questions this time.
Okay.
Okay, Eric, do you want to come back up here? Is there anything you'd like to go over on this one?
Yeah, I don't really have much to add other than, do I need to swear in again?
Yeah, I was just going to ask the lawyer that. Okay, this is a little unusual.
It's a brand new hearing, so we do everything
Swear him in again.
from square one again.
Okay, because when I watch Perry Mason, they'll say you're still under oath. So I didn't know if this was the same as that or not.
That's been years ago.
Okay,
Brand new hearing.
all right. Raise your right hand, and do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I swear.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I don't have much to add. Similar project. On this one, the grass swale / snow storage area would be on the, if Sean were to pull up the exhibit on the top of the page, kind of along what would be the west property boundary. That little jut there on the west side of the yellow, or on the page left of the yellow area, that's to provide access to a garage for that bottom corner tract, in case you had a question on that. It's very similar. That's all I've got.
Go ahead.
Just real quick, seeing the similarities here between this and the other one, we asked and you accepted a seventh condition for a fence on the south side. I assume that's a good idea here as well, and would you be okay with that as a seventh condition?
Yeah, I'm not sure of the condition. It looks like, looking at my survey map here, that there is a fence there right now. I don't know what the condition of it is. Bad? Is it bad? Okay. So, yeah, if it's in bad shape, we'll put a new one up.
I've got a
Okay,
question. I'm almost thinking that, knowing this developer, he'll probably put fences around the whole thing. I just have a gut feeling that'll happen.
I think you're probably right.
Looking at what's next door, so they can contain their own development.
Right.
And the way this is now approaching the road, the hardscape will be on I guess that's the west side, is that correct? Your hardscape there, the green?
That's correct. Yeah.
And will that have any kind of softening at all as far as landscaping on that top part? Do you have any idea what'll happen there?
So that's where the grass swale will be for stormwater treatment.
That whole...
Along the west, yeah, basically almost that entire 89-foot dimension.
Oh, okay.
And in order to squeeze it in there, there'll be a short block retaining wall along the west side. So kind of that.
Okay.
I always think that looks nice.
Yeah, so that'll be kind of the division then to the other property.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I was just trying to envision it. But yeah, I kind of get that gut feeling. I bet that'll happen for the neighbors. Okay.
Any other questions? Well, I got to say, this is innovative. This is smaller. These are smaller parcels than I really imagined would ever do pocket housing on. But
Yeah.
It's doable, obviously, but it'll be interesting to see how this works.
Yeah. I think it'll be a success.
And the sizes, are they comparable to what the size is, 1,100 square feet to 17?
Yes. Yes.
2 stories? Is that what they're looking at?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Is that everything you had?
That's it.
Okay, well, I guess you're all done
Thank
for
you.
now. I have 2 people signed up on this one. Lauren Parada, is he here? Did he leave? I think he left. Lauren Parada? And Brian Casson, did he leave also? Okay, so is there anyone else that would like to come up and talk? Okay, yeah, just come on up and state your name, address there.
Linda Terry, 1020 Davidson.
Okay.
We're on the other side.
Okay, Lynn, and
our house turns-
hold on one second. Do you swear that the testimony you're going to give us will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
So help me God.
Okay.
Our house turns 100 years old this year, and our lot's pretty huge. And being that green area is going to face where all of our windows are, it's going to take all of our eastern, it's going to shade our whole house, 2 stories. And the population of our little street with these more like I just picture a lot of people coming in and out of our street. Right now, we have an issue. And when people come up our hill, they fly up our hill. And we can't slow them down enough. By the time they hit this property, they've already hit the get-go and they've let off. But, so when we're driving our neighborhood, it's calm right now. It's very peaceful. And when you guys bring in this many people to an area that's got 100-year-old homes, you know, it's too much. And I would like to ask you, would you like to buy our house? Because you just messed up our privacy. Like, it's gone. Everything we had, 18 years, it's gone. Because you're going to put this 2-story up. And what's it going to do to our property value? Like, you know, you're just taking away everything good about the damn neighborhood. And this school's quaint. Everything's quaint. You're going to put in all these people just tied in this thing. I can see snow removal. You're not going to have good snow removal in that other area. There's nowhere to push it. You can't push it into 4-foot space of green. We get tons of snow. We have to use our whole driveway to push our snow out. And we can't even push it on the street because they'll push it right back at you. So all I'm saying is we just lost our home because of this development. And would you like to buy our lot? It's gone. It would be great for you guys to have that other lot. It's right on the hill. It's next to it'd be great. So I'm offering our house up for sale because it's done due to this proposal.
I have a real quick question for you. Are you on the west side? Are you on the green? You're on the green side?
1020 Davidson, right at the green.
At the green.
All of our bedroom windows are there. The street, when you pull out in the snow and stuff, everybody's got their issues.
You can use this.
With the snow conditions and kids and driving and...
So you're the one that's on the left?
I can't see. I'm
Yeah.
right here. No?
That's the subject.
There you are.
Yeah, it's rolling down the thing. But yes, now our house is going to be, it's not going to be the same.
The 2 stories that they do have on the lot, the open space is the green. So they won't be abutting your property, the larger high 2 stories. It'll be
Looking down either way, it's going to be looking down.
It'll be set back from you, though. But
Yeah, that's only part of our privacy is right there, and now we're not going to have it.
yeah, and it's 6-foot fence wouldn't help.
No, not with as many people are going to be over there.
Well, if it's set back far enough with the 6-foot fence,
No,
they
you can
shouldn't.
hear a dime drop out the window, like from even the other neighbor's house that we're here. I'm sorry, we've been there for 18 years. I know the whole neighborhood. And by doing this, my house is 100 years old. I don't know if I could protect it in any way from some developer taking it, or just let you guys have it now, because have at it, because it's not the same neighborhood anymore. It's not quaint. It's not old. It's going to turn new. All these people are going to buy everything up from our hill. We knew commercial was coming, but it's developers are coming now. They don't care about us, little homeowners, paid $70,000 for our home. They don't care. They're just going to smack up people all around us, charge them, $200,000 a home to live in our backyard. So I'm done. If you want our house, you can have a lot.
Yeah.
I need some little clarification on this. So you're on looking at the left side,
Yeah, the west,
okay? And you probably don't have the package in front of us that we do. But you have from your property line to, let's say, how they divide that up. Sean, can you yeah. So you have 38 feet from your property line to the furthest point of that first little indentation. So there's 38 feet before they even start building, and that building will probably be back somewhat. So let's say round numbers, 40 feet, and probably the 2-story, I would have to imagine, it's not going to be a straight wall. You'll have your entry, and then it'll probably step back some, so that'll even be more so.
I get it.
Further, let me go through my thought process. So you'll have a buffer of 40 feet. And then closest to your property line, if I understand the applicant, there's going to be what we call a swale, which holds water. And I don't know if you understand what that is, but it's grassy area. It's a little slope. So there's going to be some sort of, we call it green space. And the retaining wall that they mentioned, I don't have a clear picture of why, because I don't know what the terrain of the lot is, but I imagine that's to hold something back. And that was only, and I'm sure the applicant will get back again, it's only going to be about 4 feet high. And whether or not we put some stipulation in for fencing around the property to give you some privacy, I hear your concern.
I do too.
I'm not ignoring that, but I had the impression you're thinking that the buildings were going to be smack up against your property, and they're not.
But like I said, the neighborhood's so quiet, you can hear 4 houses over the next block. It's really nice right now. And our land slopes in the back. So if you put up a fence, it's still, you're going to have to put up a 20-foot fence because our land slopes. So it doesn't matter if you put a fence up because we're going to still see you. There's our land slopes all the way down. So how are they going to do that?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the property.
No, I know, but the fence, I can't see them putting up a 6-foot fence. It's still, from that, it's still our land slopes, so the fence, you're going to still see everybody because our land slopes. You know, we're already over there, our fence right now, or our neighbors because our land slopes. So.
Well, hopefully, you can have some communication with the developer, and I'm just trying to clarify one thing that I heard your concern.
I have a question about our house turning 100. Is there any way we can historically mark it so nobody can take it down? Or I don't know anything about it. I know it turns 100.
I think that is out of our purview, but I know Wallace did it, and they did the whole town.
Right.
And there are some homes that have that stipulation as we speak in Coeur d'Alene, but I don't know if they're on the state historic list. And I think Wallace might be even on the national. It's a very unusual situation.
Right.
But you could research that. You come to the library right here and probably find out. Do you know?
Oh, no.
We'll just ask the planning, are there any historic districts or historic buildings in the city? They can tell you.
Yeah, what's the historic? I know the Fort Grounds has some historic value.
The Fort Grounds area, and multiple years ago, probably 20, 30 years ago, was designated as a historic neighborhood. They're on the National Registry as a neighborhood. The city does not have any historic districts in town where we regulate what happens with those structures. It's not something that the city has ever done.
Mm-hmm.
You certainly can proceed with trying to get individual buildings listed on the registry.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I don't know how you go about doing that. But
Okay, I was just wondering,
Mhm,
try to save
sure.
it or something.
Yeah.
All right, that's all I have to say. It's just a shame, and my lot's up for sale now, my house is up for sale. Thank you.
Did you have anything, John?
Well, I wanted to add a comment. We approved unanimously the previous hearing that's very similar to this, and I suspect this one will approve too. But as something for you to take away, this is R12 property that might not be at its highest and best use, and I think you could look at this development as 3 pieces that will be owned by more than likely owner occupants. Without this subdivision, a developer could go in there and put a multi-story triplex that are rentals in there that would have, all of the negatives and even more negatives. So I think it's your wonderful 100-year-old home unfortunately isn't on a piece of R1 property or R3 or something more out in the country, out in Indian Meadows or somewhere like that. You are kind of in the denser part of town, and I think one thing to take away that might feel a little better if I were in your shoes is, again, this is an opportunity here that is going to be individually owned probably quality done. If you know, we make this assumption that the same developer's doing this as others in town that have been done well, and that is something that's probably a whole lot better next door to you than a rental triplex looking into your property.
Okay, I have one more person here. Bill Barr, you wish to testify? Come on up, sir. Just state your name and address when you get up there.
Yes, I'm Bill Barr. I live at 927 Davidson Avenue.
Okay, sir, and then you swear the testimony you're about to give us will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. Well, as she was saying, my house, I sit right up at the top of the hill there, and it's supposed to be part of the old Fort Sherman. It's 105, 106 years old. So probably one of the oldest houses on the street there. But my biggest concern is where I live, the street narrows, and we have quite a lot of traffic comes up through there as it is, and because of it being narrow, and when parking can get quite congested up through there, especially when people have visitors and stuff. And about a year and a half ago, right across the street from our house, a car got slammed. I mean, somebody coming up the hill, probably doing 40 miles an hour plus, and just slammed in this car and just smashed it, and smashed his car too. No, luckily nobody was hurt. The one car was parked. And that's kind of a concern of mine. There's a lot of children in the area. Right across the street from me, there's about 3 or 4 kids there, and just up the street there's a child there, and so I get really concerned about the traffic coming through there, and you add more families, it's going to be a lot more. Mm-hmm. I mean, you put in 3 more families, and they have 2 cars apiece, and I wonder what the overflow parking would be, for visitors and everything else. And I'm just, I foresee some big problems. But basically, that's all I've got right now. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, so I guess that's it. There wasn't anyone else left to testify out there, I guess. Eric, do you want to come back up?
I don't have much to add. Just let the applications stand on their merits and just say that.
Excuse me, if you're going to speak, you have to come up to the mic because we have to create a transcribable record. Thanks.
So no, I don't have anything to add other than that let the applications stand on their merits. I know Mr. Cunningham, who's the owner-developer, like to be a good neighbor, like to do anything we can to ease the concerns of the neighbors, and so I'd invite you to get in touch with him. That's all I've got.
Yeah, maybe, it's not always easy to get in touch with a developer, but maybe it'd be a nice gesture if he makes contact at some point with the neighbors.
Yeah.
Now, does anyone have any questions for Eric while he's up here?
Yeah, I was just going to suggest that some of the developments that he has done could be mentioned, and that would be the one with the barn and the homes that they put in there. And where else in smaller numbers? Do you know? Can you?
The only other 2 that I'm personally familiar with are in process or in construction right now.
Right. Down on Riverstone and that area, he's got some projects. Right. But they're more larger and not a lot kind of thing.
They're a little, yeah, they're
larger.
They're larger than this. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, anything else?
But as our
Peter?
chair said, it'd be very helpful if the developer would just knock on a lady's door and not negotiate, just
Yeah.
develop some conversation. Yeah.
I will absolutely stress that to him.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay. Thank you. Is anyone working on a motion?
We always leave it up to him because he does such a good job.
Excellent, excellent.
I would, Mr. Chair, I'd take that on. I see this is very similar to the previous one. I think this is, really comes down primarily to us making a decision on whether or not, the access is adequate as it states in 1707-1010F of the pocket housing. So, motion would be a little bit of brevity, if I can get away with it, Mr. Wilson. In the introduction, this pertaining to S215 for the Coeur d'Alene Cottage Company on the .238 acre parcel known as 1018 West Davidson. Findings B1 through B7 be incorporated, and B7A, that the requirements for the preliminary plat have been met. Sean pointed out that that was a statement from the city engineer. B7B, the statements in the staff report reflect that sidewalks, streets, alleys, right-of-way, easements, street lighting, fire protection, planting, drainage, pedestrian and bicycle facilities are adequate. Those are in the staff report statements. B7C, that the proposed preliminary plat does comply with the subdivision design standards and that the improvement standards have been met, and that is reflecting the staff statement on page 17 that makes that attest. And B7D, that the preliminary plat does meet the requirements for the zoning district in the outline that Sean provided, that the use is compatible, the frontage requirements are not, there are no frontage requirements as long as, again, we assess that the access is adequate and there is no minimum lot size in this case. And so, for conclusions and a decision that the Planning Commission pursuant to the aforementioned finds that the request of Coeur d'Alene Cottage Company for the preliminary plat as described in the application should be approved with the same 6 + 1 = 7 conditions, including the fence, along with the comment that we highly encourage the developer to talk to the neighbors.
The fence along the south line again.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Now let's see if we have a second to your motion.
I'll second, Mr. Chair.
Second by Luttrip. Any discussion? Okay. Shannon, can you do the roll call, please?
Bowlby?
Yes.
Ingalls?
Yes.
Messina?
Yes.
Luttrip?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Okay, so that passes unanimously again. This is S-2-15, and this is 1018 Davidson. All right, so that does it for this evening, and we'll reconvene again in March for our March hearing. Motion for adjournment?
So moved.
We got Luttrip, and then
Second.
second by Messina. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so we're adjourned.